I'm not with them anymore. That's me in TvT. So, you know, sometimes TvT is fun. Sometimes it has fun openers, I think is kind of the major problem right now. Is that there's an equally likely, there's more of a chance of there not being a particularly interesting opener. And then if there's not a really interesting opener, then it sometimes leads to basically no mid game and right into late game. So I think that's what it's really boiled down to as far as the watchability being reduced. Because I think everyone has always hated TvT. It's an insanely stressful matchup to play. But you could really respect TvT to watch. And unless there is just too freaking much of it, like GOM TvT, I think in general it is a fascinating matchup in a lot of departments. But what it's missing now, in my opinion, is that really strong early, mid, and late game, which I'll get into in a second. Specified finals of the North American EPT Open Cup. Special is in the bottom right for Team Sastorm. And in the top left of Curious Minds, we have Cure, who I believe is on DPG. So, what I mean by the early, mid, and late game, hopefully you understand at least that phrase, those phrases, right? But what I think creates really poor StarCraft games is when we kind of skip those steps. Now, some StarCraft games can have all of those steps be really well defined and still have really boring outcomes. Like they had a strong early game, a strong mid game, and they got into the late game, obviously. And then the late game just extends for 20 minutes, nothing happens. That's also a boring StarCraft game. But I think that's what is often the problem with some of the matchups that makes us really just go Resident Sleeper, is if the early game has the same exact thing happen all the time, mid game as well, right? We get really bored. If they kind of just conjoin, they just like, nothing really distinguishes the two. So it's the opener into the mid game, and yes, there's all these tiny little technical details that a good caster could explain and try and make sound really important. At the end of the day, if I explain all these possibilities and all these cool things that could happen with the way that they slightly differ in their TvT openers, but literally nothing happens, the Reapers fight, nothing actually comes from it, everyone's on equal work accounts, do you guys actually care? Probably not. There's no sound effects. I'll fix that. So the best StarCraft games are the opposite, where there's a really strong early game, like a Turax versus a just barely held, you know, Zerg player defense, into a mid game that's super close and clutch and very like Marine Tank versus Ling Baneling, and this really cool back and forth late game, right? So I think TvT is just missing some of that action. It's funny though, I'm talking a lot about missing out on action and these early openers not necessarily being the biggest differences, and yet here we have Cure literally winning in the early game. Which, did not expect that. It is like they heard me and they took offense to it. So Cure kills the first unit with some fancy micro, and then the second unit also gets killed. And then because Special was going for a reactor on his barracks instead of a third unit, which is not surprising, but still, there is literally just nothing to actually stop Cure from snowballing. The Helene would pop out, but then even that one Helene against two Reapers can struggle. And he already took SCV damage, and it's not like this was a proxy Turax that caught him by surprise. So Special says, oh, well, I still have a command center that's building. I'll try and play this game out. No, literally nothing else is really happening. So he knows the damage that he took was just... was going to lead to a very painful game. A game that I guess he could have played out, but I quite understand the reason he didn't do it. But that's especially funny because, yes, there are some cool early games that I was going to elaborate on. I was gonna say, you know, when people open up with a medevac, I think it's more exciting. When people open up with the 5 Reaper, 3 Hellion dive, they actually try and dive with it, that can be exciting. But very rarely does a TvT get decided with the early Reapers, because in professional leagues, we just expect them to be kind of a base expectation. And that's not to knock Special. It's just that's usually the case, right? But every so often, even the best Terran players in the world fuck up Reaper control. It's just the honest truth of it. And Special's particular build opener really did depend on keeping his units alive to actually coordinate together. Since he didn't go for a second Reaper, which would have held a little bit more power than that single Marine, because he, I don't know, again, got the reactor, which is not an uncommon way to follow up. It just was so painful. That was just proof that even the pros have that happen to them in TvT. But it's really not supposed to happen. Bottom left Cure, top right Special. So last game is not supposed to happen. Every once in a while, I can guarantee that every single Terran player on any skill level has lost in that type of fashion, though. Usually on ladder. It's one of those things that you don't do very often, and when you do it, you're pretty much thanking that you're not in public. You know what I mean? There is a hole in your jeans the entire day, but thank God you work from home, so no one saw it. It's a big difference than walking in a mall and everyone seeing your butt. But it does happen, and we all should just accept that and move on. But as rare as that is supposed to be, what we're seeing right before us right now is not nearly as rare. So if Special were to lose this one, it's not as rare. It's understandable. Last game was kind of like a sympathetic understandable, like, yeah, it happens. It does. You know, it's okay. This one is just a, oh yeah, 2 racks, proxy, flipping cheese. Am I right, guys? So 2 racks, Reaper, against a factory expand from Special. Special has gone to extremes in best ofs, in a lot of best ofs prior to this. He'll go 2 racks proxy himself into 1 rack CC and TvT into, I don't know, mech. He's all over the place, right? This time around, he is playing a little more straight and narrow, going for the factory expand again. The only problem with this is that he doesn't know it's a 2 racks, so the mental game, the positioning isn't quite there. So Special's Reaper is what is especially important about the defense here. Special's first Reaper doesn't even try to come home, and that is actually potentially game over type of situation. It's not here. I was so close to it, though. Special almost lost this Reaper, and if this Reaper is dead, these Reapers of Cure had a lot more of a fun time. Ooh, nice grenade, too, there from Special. Really well done. It's still not a great game, though, for Special, who even has to handle these other Reapers. Okay. 2 of them get taken down. Third one is still left alive, and that Hellion is awfully low, so Special's desperately trying to run away. His own Reaper was sacrificed for that grenade, right? The repair is going to come down, however, with the help of the Marine. Kira's not going to find any more damage. But I think what also happened when we were watching Special's base was that Kira took down Special's first Reaper. Yeah, he did. So Special loses 6 workers. Kira only loses 1. Obviously, that's a good position for Kira. He's up 4 workers, but we'll see if Special can have a counterattack opportunity. Special cancels his command center on the low ground. Didn't want to have that as an opportunity to be sniped. Probably would have canceled it anyways. And goes for a straight up 1-1-1. Which, again, is not too common of a situation in TvT. I pointed this out in TvP. It's not common for a player to just full on 1-1-1 on one base. It's almost always a factory expand or 1 racks expand, right? So it's a bit of a change-up. One that Kira is actually not going to be able to scout either, because he doesn't know if there's a command center here or not. Oh, well, he's about to figure it out. 3 Reaper's still alive. Great for the backstab opportunity. That is just something else that Special was going to be aware of. He knew that they would eventually come in and try and kill more SCVs, and they did. 3 more SCVs go down. Usually not a fair trade. 1 SCV for 1 Reaper, but when it comes to this type of game, I mean, it just makes us more all in. And I think most importantly, it was scouting. So, it didn't actually scout the lack of command center or the presence of the starport. It saw that everyone was still in gas, though. Oh, it saw the medevac, didn't it? Didn't it see the medevac? Ay. Regardless, I think Kier knows what's up. Kier's playing as safely as possible. So he went double Cyclone, high ground command center, and his tank is already halfway done. I don't see Special getting much done. Okay, well, Kier's actually landed his barracks. That's funny. Oh, what did he just lose there? A Hellion, I think? That's not too bad. Gonna say, double Cyclone beats single Cyclone, but Special with the hot pickup. Medevac still has a lot of use. Obviously, it's giving that high ground vision, but a little bit of the micro war as well. Kier still has a lot going for him, however. A little quick lock-on damages the Medevac, but doesn't actually kill it. So Kier has that second command center. He has his Raven out and building up energy. Second one's on the way. And he's actually going to just slap down a third command center, which might seem a bit, I don't know, courageous. It might seem a bit brazen. It might seem a bit foolish, perhaps, while you're under pressure from someone going for a 1 base, which he is aware of. His barracks was in there up until a second ago. But it actually is totally fine in the weird TvT way that it can play out, which is that you can recognize, if you're good enough at TvT, that you're just not going to be broken, you know? And your choices are either to slap down 2 more barracks and go to 2 base. Oh, this is actually really awkward. Okay, whew. Or just continue your economic lead once you finally break out, which you probably will. You both have the same production, but yours is reinforcing faster. Now that's with everything else equally considered, and actually, Special had taken, Kier had taken so much damage on his tank that it gets taken down because he was late to the interference matrix, he was late to the pullback on the tank, and the Liberator showed up. So this is where it's really complicated, right? Kier probably thought that he was okay on the high ground, that he was going to be safe, and he was incorrect about that. His Raven also got severely injured and was actually killed. So now instead of having 2 Ravens and potentially 4 auto turrets at some point in this game, he's down to just 1. This game has suddenly, very, very quickly, turned into Special's not just an advantage because he's had the army here. He's been the one that's scary. He's been the one that's pressuring, sure. But you knew that Kier had it in him to defend. Now it's like, does Kier defend this? I don't think he does. He had a good chance, and he was going to, again, continue his lead with his 3rd command center. But the fact that his first tank got broken like it did, and now his second tank is struggling as well, his Raven got destroyed too, like that's all made this now a not quite impossible hold, but it's getting there. The Liberator denied that last shot on the tank. Kier's gonna get to repair that up, but now Special is on the high ground. He's approaching closer to Kier's barracks, to his add-on. There goes a reactor. Kier did build 2 other barracks, but I think he might be wishing at this point that he built that a lot faster. That was his choice. He could have gone for a 3rd command center, or he could have added on the barracks faster. And at the very least, he'd have, let's say, like 8 more Marines. Even though there's no reactors, there's no tech lab, he still would have had a little bit more to actually work with. Right now, we have a very silly-looking SCV pool. The tank wasn't even unsieged to really contribute to this. And the interference matrix did go down, but it's not going to be enough. And Kier is absolutely going to lose this game. GG. Special wins the 1 base push and ties up the series. Is that an ODST? I don't know what that is. It's a Mass Effect helmet. So this is a much more exciting TvT. This is the type of TvT that everyone enjoys. Special called him a lightweight. And now we move on to Hardwire. In the top right, it is Special. The bottom left, it's Cure. Cure giving himself a substantial economic lead with his T-Rex Reaper opener, but then mishandling the defense. Which, to be clear, it's not exactly an easy defense. Maybe people will accuse me of miscalling the game, being like, I thought you said that Cure had this. Why are you so wrong? Fair enough. But I'd actually say that I just basically, I put a little trust in Cure. Which I don't think he was wrong. I don't think I was really wrong. Like, it's one of those situations, early game TvT, when you're talking about very limited production, but the production you have gives you very good units. So tanks, Cyclones, yes, tanks and Ravens, right? That usually it's a seesaw, right? And it just goes one way really quickly. So it looked like it was going Cure's way well enough just because he had time. Because he didn't take that low ground command center and try to defend it and then make it really super awkward by trying to defend it first, then running up to the high ground. It looked like he was going to be fine to just wait it out, to be patient and wait for his double Raven energy, maybe even eventually move on to double Vikings, right? Put a reactor on that starport, swap it off, whatever, and then just build up his tank count too. So imagine that he doesn't start to lose units like he did. He has 2 Ravens, he has 3 tanks, the 2 Ravens get auto turrets, interference matrix, what have you. He pushes Special away from his high ground here. Probably Special tries to contain him on the low ground, but that's as Special as like getting his natural command center. And it's still a very complicated game because Cure did have the 3rd command center. So all those things I just listed, the 2 Ravens, the 3 tanks, that's all with him having a 3rd command center. Because he did opt to go for that as opposed to 2 more barracks. But anyways, it happens pretty darn quickly. And again, no matter what league you're in, TvT, I think we've all had that happen as well. It wasn't Reapers that time. It was tanks and a Liberator. But still, you think you've got things under control in the early game. You think you know how to defend against something, and then suddenly, whoops-a-daisy, I actually did. Cure picked up on what was going on, or at the very least was suspicious of it, with the supply depot blocking it out. You know, it was at least a factory expand, but wanted to make sure that it wasn't something else. And it's a good thing, too, because he did actually manage to see that it was not just a 2nd barracks, but actually a tech lab. So not double Reaper, but rather Marauder. It is kind of funny, though, because it does include Reapers. So it's Reaper Marauder. It's trying to be the best of both worlds. But kind of one of those, like, jack of all trades, master of none situation, I guess. The Reapers aren't really going to snowball in the main base, and Marauders aren't going to bust open the front. They weren't as fast as they could have been, right?
Apparently you were doing something right, Captain.
Not that I think they would have busted the opening anyways. But so anyway, Special, he's got 2 barracks of production. Now he's got a factory, but that tech lab is building. Okay, his Reapers are back at home. So I guess that's what the Reapers are really good at. Which, by the way, I think the cleaning bot just soaked up an attack for Special there. Am I wrong? I think a cleaning bot just helped Special. Anyways. So I guess that's the real power of this opening, is that Special gets to be aggressive and kind of a pseudo-contain. Because, it is a contain. It's going to last a little while. But then he also can defend back at home, where if you just Marauder proxy, and I can speak personally about this, and the Reapers go across the map, it's really awkward. Especially I didn't realize the tank would already be out, loses 1 Marauder to it, and is going to just last as long as possible here, knowing the bunker will be destroyed. There's just no getting around it. Good game intuition from Cure here. Like, as the Reapers jump up to his high ground, he moves the Cyclone to deal with the Reapers. Really nicely done. There's a pretty perfectly timed escape from Special as well with that salvage. Gosh, salvage. You know what? It's past my bedtime. I'm now using that as an excuse. Past 10:30 p.m., I can officially use the bedtime excuse whenever I forget something. It's fine. Scan is going to see what looks like a very typical Terran setup for Special, but of course it can't actually see that it's building a Banshee. I do wonder how many people try to tune in to StarCraft and see this little icon and go, I don't see that in my game. Am I dumb? Could I actually see that as a Banshee build? No, you can't actually see that. But the question is a Banshee really the best thing right now for special? So Banshees are great for backstabs and surprise factors, because who expects a Banshee in TvT nowadays? They're really not that great without Cloak defensively. And even with Cloak, because of the presence of Ravens, they're not that great. They're not fighting units. TLDR, they are not fighting units. Ravens do everything. They fight, they defend, harass, make spaghetti, whatever they want. Oh, Cure got a Banshee too? What the I didn't even see that. That just slipped right in there. Shit, man. The Banshee came out a bit faster for Cure, and Special is the one that gets surprised here. 5 SCVs already going down. Make that 6. Not too much more, actually. Cure playing with fire. I mean, the Banshee at this point, I think 6 SCVs make the lone Banshee with no cloak worth it. I don't know if pro Terrans disagree, but keeping it alive is just a couple of Marines left at home then, right? It's just a little bit more of an annoyance for Special to handle unless it gets F2'd. I'm watching you, Banshee. Do people actually complain about ZG's casting? Yeah, of course. Everyone complains about everything, though. If there is a time where everyone seemingly agrees that something is good, it's a limited time, isn't it? That's how I console myself and stop myself from crying at night when people don't like me. Everyone hates everyone at some point. So Kier finds himself 11, 9, 10 workers ahead. Faster third CC, because his is going to be on location as the orbital finishes. And now we have ourselves a good old-fashioned TvT scuffle. All right, Kier's not going to walk into that. The tanks are so far in advance siege for special, it really isn't worth it. Kier has not taken full advantage of his economic lead yet. So this is a really important time for special. So when his army clearly still has a fighting chance, it's very close in army supply. Whereas if he waits 60 seconds, then Kier should have better production. In fact, yes, he already has 3 barracks to 1. Might even get up to 5 barracks very soon. Now this is not supposed to be happening. The command center from Kier getting awfully low on that health. It does get saved. Hello, SCVs. You could have tried. You could have been a little bit better about that. But alright, so special, he does get to push the 3rd command center off location for a little while, but that still does not make up for his economic loss. Ravens being thrown around, both of them losing a decent amount, but it is special who's losing far, far, far more. He doesn't even get the turnaround shot from the Vikings to kill this one very weak Raven. Now it's going to live, throw down an auto turret, and special, well, just gets destroyed. GG. Is mic different from game to intermission? No, but it's probably just where I'm positioning myself when I'm in intermission, because I keep doing this. Oh, far away. Who's Yelts? Thank you for the 21 months. Thanks for casting NA Open. Clearly the best caster, even Reddit agrees. That was a very surprising Reddit thread. I was just scrolling through Reddit, what was it, last night? And I was about to go to sleep, too. I just finished watching the episodes of Showtime, or Winning Time, that I was talking about, and I went to Reddit, just because it's a habit, right? We're all a bunch of fish. Close Reddit. What's going on Reddit? Open Reddit. And I saw my name in the thread. I was like, oh no. Oh god. But it was really nice. It was quite wholesome. Just in general, anyone who lives on the internet, all right? Anyone who isn't a real boomer, who doesn't understand how the internet works, when they actually find it like, important enough. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but still, to actually vocalize something positive, it's always a bit surprising and more wholesome than expected, right? Because so often, it's not something positive when someone really takes the time to comment on some, like, social media, one or the other, whichever, right? So I think a surprising amount of people just thought it was quite wholesome. So I think this thread started out and the majority of it is even wholesome. Even if people don't agree, they just said, like, oh, well, if she's your favorite, then, you know, more power to you. And then the OP was also quite nice and, you know, said, oh, I like her for these and this reason, but, you know, that's okay. What's your favorite? I'd love to hear your favorite. It was actually a really nice Reddit thread, just as a human interaction thing. So that's what really was nice about it. And that it was about me. Bottom right of Berlingrad, it is Cure. Top left, it is Special. Special, losing out in the economy pretty quickly. Only had that sliver of time that I was talking about to do damage. And didn't do any damage. Quite the opposite, just lost a pretty brutal fight. And yes, very understandable tap out from that point, for sure. Caster's way too hype. It's funny, though. Proof I'm the best caster. I have a cat. It is surprising how many other casters just don't have cats or any pets at all. But anywho, factory expand to factory expand, guys. Very mimical. Mimical? Is that even a word? Very mimic build orders. It should be a word. But what's funny about this conversation, to a degree, is that I do... You know, as a commentator, you're always taking in different perspectives and trying to basically find balance. Even in the most absurd opinions, you're trying to kind of take something, any grain of truth possible, and saying, okay, what can I do to balance that with the opposite? So, no hype and too much hype, and somewhere in the middle is where you gotta be, right? And that's actually really hard to balance. Trying to appeal to the most people possible is surprisingly difficult. It's not funny. But I would say that the one thing that I was really trying to do, I did not get much time to think about how I approached casting at Katowice, and I went into that on my vlog on my YouTube. It was just a really difficult time. But the one thing that I did try and think of is that I really wanted to be excited. I really wanted the excitement to show, especially because it was the first LAN back, and it, you know, was also the global finals. So it's funny that, you know, I'm getting credit right now in chat for not being overly hype, when I actually felt like I was very much intending to push it, really. Like, be a little even manufactured at times. Just saying it's really exciting for the sake of saying it's really exciting. A very good example of this is when we got into Maru versus Serral. Actual ZombieGrub, the ZombieGrub you hear on her stream right now, who curses and says things she's not supposed to, was actually thinking in her head, this is going to be a really lame best of three. Or best of three. Best of three. But people really want Maru versus Serral. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to say it's going to be amazing. So literally that thought process goes through my head as, you know, caster ZombieGrub on the main stage said, you know what, Pig, this has got to be amazing because the last two series were amazing. This one's also got to be, oh, it's best of 5. My bad, but still. My words certainly did not express my internal thoughts. But I think it was a better choice for that particular type of event. I thought that I would be very, like, generally well received for picking the right event to do it. But I was kind of surprised at how well received I was. Anyways, enough time was bought to actually get some action in this TvT. We had Special with 2 Cyclones versus Cure's 1, but Special's lock-ons just weren't as neat. Cure locks on to the bigger and badder units. The second Cyclone gets that kill. and gets a little bit happier for it. Unfortunately, with his only Cyclone being on the other side of the map, this once again kind of surprise Banshee of Special gets in to get some kills. And well, that is a bit awkward. Kira's gonna run into the main base. That is really bold of Kira to do that. Because the Cyclone was still out, the Marines were still there, and something was like, you're not gonna come up to that top of the ramp as Kira with enough units, I would say, to ever snowball. But he was probably feeling the pressure because of the Banshee. It had already killed 4 or 5 SCVs. When I stopped talking about it, it goes up to 13 SCVs before it dies. But if Cure hadn't run up the ramp like that, yes, he'd have the same number of SCV killed. But he'd have, what, like 10 more army supply? I don't know. Well, Special Surprise Banshee did not work out for him last game. It was Cure's Surprise Banshee that worked out. This time around, Special gets revenge. Now Cure is going to have to try and come back in this game. Just straight up come back. His third CC is not done. It's barely even started. And Specials is already in orbital. Cure's double Raven harassments probably won't equalize the workers. Because, of course, even if they killed 11 workers, which isn't impossible, not at all, you're still up against someone with 3 CC and 3 Mule. So they'd have to do more than that. They'd have to kill probably 20 workers to really feel good about themselves. Well, those Ravens do not feel good about themselves. Oh my god, they feel so flippin' terrible about themselves. Oh my god. They feel so terrible about themselves, they're basically going to just evolve into a teenage girl sobbing into her diary that her crush doesn't like her. She's gonna run away from home and never speak to anyone ever again. She's just too embarrassed. Yeah, that was a bit of a disaster for Kira. Still down 7 workers. Orbital still not quite done. His stim is only just started. His special has about 80% on that upgrade. Yay. Kira brings this one back. It'll be through very patient, appropriate defensive play. Always in the right position at the right time. So far, so good. And with their army supplies still being even, this is a totally, I'm not going to say winnable situation for Kier. This situation right here on the screen. But it is something that he can handle for now. Oh, he finally loses one of his tanks. He dodged tank out of the interference matrix. So that was cool, but not going to be able to do so this time around. He was distracted by just a handful of Marines running into the natural base, so Kier is going to lose out on the more important side of things. Not that his SCVs weren't important, it's just... There's no winning here. There's just no winning over here. Rather one-sided TvT. As was last game. Kira's not willing to give it up yet. He doesn't actually want to play until, what, 1 p.m.? The Viking concave, surprisingly good. Kira does win that fight, but overall is losing the game. He's down 30 workers. He's still down an army supply. He's still late to combat shields. He only has 1 upgrade to compare to Special's 2 upgrades in the works. The only thing that could happen for Kira is if he had saved his tank count. If somehow, in all of that action, Kira saves 4 of these dead tanks, then I'd give him a shot. But having his tank count reset kind of just like resets his chances as well. Because you know that tank count is one of the slowest things to build, even if you decided to play to an extreme and add a second factory before a 4th and 5th barracks, you're just like, you know what, whatever, like pseudo mech almost. I'm gonna turtle hard, hope that my tank count covers me. You're not gonna build them up as quickly as Special is going to build up 20, 30 Marines and just either drop you to death or concave you to death or whatever they really want to do. Kier did do a decent job keeping his Vikings alive. That's basically what keeps Terran players in games, is tank count and Viking count, so that they're not completely bopped by the air transition later down the road, nor are they killed in the mid game when they're behind because the tanks cover a lot of their deficit. So Kier has one of those things, which is Vikings, but he does not have the other thing, which is a decent number of tanks. He is being allowed, is a generous term, but he's getting to another stabilizing point, let's put it that way. But only because Special is, you know, kind of ramping up. 3CC's been mining this entire time. 4th command center now moving on over, but Kier did choose to take that, maybe a risk, and go for a faster 4th command center himself prior to the 4th and 5th barracks. But that's the type of risk that he has to take.
Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
So now I feel like Kier, the way that he wins this game is that Special over-dedicates to one attack. He only attacks in one place. But I don't think Special will do that. Already Special in the main base killing more SCVs. That planetary is not done, so a simple Marine hit squad is going to kill more SCVs over to the right side. And possibly even kill this planetary. That's gone. That's dead. Refunds the planetary, but doesn't save the command center. And well, that's the nail in the coffin then. So again, the only way that Special were to lose this game is if he only attacked over to the right, which Kier responds to. He cleans up, he puts down a center tower on a planetary that's done, and then again, Kier somehow manages to hold with just a good tank count. Because Special's so laser focused on only one attack, but this is not going to happen. Kier, okay, now this is okay, buddy, no. That 4th command center that just died, him putting it down before the 3rd, 4th, and 5th barracks, rather, completely understandable. We've seen that from other people. I think I explained the reason it works. Okay, like, okay, whatever. You don't necessarily need those Marines. You really want the tank count, and those tanks are being produced. You got 6 of them. But he builds not just a replacement 4th command center to keep up with Special, he also builds a 5th command center. Hello? I don't think you can afford 800 minerals in Kira's position all willy-nilly. But he's gonna try. Because then on top of that, here's the other thing, right? Maybe he can afford to get both command centers and live. How in the world does he actually get a 5th on location? Especially on a very small map. If this was Glittering Ashes and his plan was to take a hidden base, I'd freaking love it. But there's no way he's gonna get this base up and running. Absolutely crazy. He's gonna try though. He's refusing to die. He's seen Maru do it. Hell, he's been on the receiving end of this shit. Alright? He's like, I'm pretty sure I kill Maru now, right? And then he just doesn't. But no, Kier, you're not supposed to come back in this game. Stop it. This command center is barely going to be saved, but the next trouble is perhaps the Viking War. No, actually, Kier still wins that one. Kier still wins the Viking War. He had a Liberator siege up to at least stop Special's advance, if his tanks weren't going to do it in the first place. Stop. No. No. Okay, so Kier, couple problems. One, he does not have a second upgrade. He doesn't have armor upgrades. So he has 2 attack against 2/2 going on 3/3. His Marines are borderline useless. They are literally just there to tank for his tanks. That was confusing. They're literally just bodies in front of tanks. Second, he should not continue to win the air war. I would say, right? There's no way that he wins the air war when Special can afford as much Special can afford. The thing that Kira needs now is not just his fourth pace on freaking location. He needs an attack. He needs to get Special off of his back. And it seems like he's about to get that opportunity. He's actually getting surprisingly close to max in this game. What the fuck? Special takes another, well, not good attack. He does have a good Viking count, but they're not all on the front lines. So that was not great. Kira starts his +1 armor at 15 minutes, guys. Just gonna throw that out there. Really highlight that one. And Kira cannot afford any vehicle upgrades, even though they are effective, and you do absolutely want +2 vehicles in this matchup. Double drop's gonna hit the natural. Okay, so could go after the planetary, but probably assuming that the army was gonna be there, hoping to find a little more of a defenseless natural. Doesn't actually find that. And Special, well, funnily enough, these last couple of drops have been quite disappointing. He might be multitasking too much. I think now is the time to consolidate, say, I guess they do have enough units. Oh, wait, nope, spoke too soon. Spoke too soon. He scans the third, he sees there's nothing there, finally finds the opening that he should be finding. Fast enough, though? Is he gonna be fast enough? I don't know about that. Kira responds pretty quickly. Special's tanks. Oh, this is awkward from Kira, or is it just really good from Kira? It's gonna be surprisingly good from Kira! His tanks on the high ground win the tank war, and the Marines spill forward on the left side and win that fight! What the fuck is happening? Why is he winning? But why does the 2-1 guy win? No, he's not even 2-1 and he's 2. Why does the 2 attack guy win against the 3-3 guy? And now Kira, if he gets his tanks, his really, really good tank count, 11 tanks into Special's face, into his third, into his natural. Special's actually could be screwed here. Oh my god. There's certainly one thing about Berlingrad. Momentum shifts fast. If there is a momentum shift, you are instantly punished for it. So Special, he takes a pretty bad fight, and then gets instantly punished hard. If this is Glittering Ashes again, to go back to that map, I think that Special probably is holding around his fourth, let's say that much at least, which is a much more playable game. But if he actually lets Kira into his natural, then it could be game over for him. He absolutely wins the Marine fight, right? But Special can't win against all those tanks. He can't win this game. He's not gonna win this game. He does have 4 Vikings. If it's in a Liberator, he could stop the advance of tanks. But I don't think he's actually, 1, thinking about it, or 2, quite able to afford it, because he's trying to get his own tank count up and running, which is almost there. He does have 2 tanks firing away. He will take the advantage for this particular tank battle. And Special has 2 other bases mining, by the way, with a third one that could be at least mule dropped. And yet Special is going to lose this game. Does he pick up his yeah, I was gonna say, does he pick up his Marines? Because all he needs is a decent number of Marines. Oh, he's gonna just drop. Oh, there's actually nothing stopping this. Cure! Not realizing that weakness, nothing he can really do about it necessarily. It's not as effective as I thought it was going to be, however. And now Kira's Vikings come forward. Wasn't Special winning the Viking War? Am I crazy? Did I have those reversed? Maybe I had those reversed. Well, if Special was, he isn't anymore, so this Liberator that I was calling for earlier is effectively useless. It might get 1 tank, 1 cheeky little tank here before it dies, but it's not going to get many more. How? Why? Special... Oh, he's got a decent number of Marines. He's gonna go after the reinforcements. He's gonna try and cut them off, but it's actually he who is cut off! LOL! Oh, and Special, he still had such good upgrades. But not enough of his Marines had actually unloaded. He was literally fully surrounded. Can he still... Oh, wait a minute. Can he hold here? Can he hold here? His own tank count finally taking advantage. Remember, it was 11 tanks at the start of this fight for Cure. That's why he was able to push so much. But now he's the one that's down in tanks. So Special was in a similar position where it was like so much of the importance was on that tank count, even though Special abso-freaking-lutely had the better Marines by a long shot. It still came down to more so those tanks. So when he got the decent tank count, he actually manages to push out. That drop right there wasn't effective as far as those Marines actually being used, but it was effective as Cure pulled back and was kind of caught just dealing with that and not actually fully retreating. So Special is able to take the fight as Cure tries to, I guess, double down on the aggression. And now where the hell is this game? Cure has a decent SCV count, more than decent. He had that 5th command center that I thought was just so crazy to get. Oh wait, that's not even the 5th command center. Is this the 5th command center? So he has his main lifted, and he could even maybe snag another base with this one. That'd be crazy, but I guess he could. And their army supplies are back to, they're almost even. Special still has +2 attack on his vehicles, first of all, and he still has +3 armor on his Marines. So Cure is only just still finishing up his +2. All things considered, Special should still win this game. And as he blitzes into the natural here, well, not quite. He actually gets hung up on the 3rd base. Not going to go as far as to enter into the natural without his tank count. That would be, again, a potential killing move, but Cure is also getting some damage on the other side of the map. He's going to find this orbital completely undefended. Special did not put that into a planetary, which may have been saved against Pure Marine, right? But not for this time around. And oh no, oh my god, the tanks are not sieged. Cure's coming in here. He doesn't quite have the surround that he was looking for, but there's no escape for these tanks. The Marines come forward for Special, but can they actually save the day? They're gonna go after the Vikings, which are probably hoping to get that contained. And now all the tanks are sieging up. The Vikings get destroyed as they get a little mishandled, but then Special's Marines get blasted by the sieged up tanks of Cure. Cure has not taken a supply lead, but he has found himself once again on the offensive. Takes one of those tanks before it can escape as well. Might have been looking to take the high ground, but this high ground doesn't actually give you very much on this map. So not going to push that issue. Going to track Special's movements instead. Special still has the mightier Marines. He's got 3-3 against 3-2. But the tank counts once again in favor of Cure. How does this keep going so freaking back and forth? But it's 6-9. And Special is now the one with the drop on top of the 5th. That is the orbital, by the way, from the main base. Not going to actually kill it, though. Just bothers the SCVs. Gets the drop destroyed. And, I mean, usually I wouldn't say it's a big sacrifice at 22 minutes. But this game is hella scrappy. So apparently it is. And now we have just units all over the place. No one's quite sure what's happening outside of their own sensor towers, right? So, and because it is such an action-packed game, there's a lot more, I think, of that, fuck it, like I'm just gonna go, or I'm just gonna leave this thing, right? These tanks are not sieged up, and Special's gonna pounce on at least 2 of them. He's going to get a lot of his Marines slaughtered for the cause, but the trade on the tank count is probably worth it. Cure was hoping for that to be a lot more of a surprise than it was, and with the loss of those tanks, the loss of that positioning, Cure now has his very important 5th base under fire. He manages to find a couple of tanks from Special, but Special's army was already on the hunt. GG is finally called. Special finally takes that 4th game, which he was supposed to, but it took him an extra 15 minutes. The hell? Can't believe how close Special was to losing that game. If I had the time, I would have gone back into that one fight, the almost game-losing fight from Special, when he was attacking Insecure's 3rd. Because it was kind of hard to call who was going to have the more difficult position, because both of them had problems. Cure was late, so he couldn't just calmly siege up and say, no, you can't come here. He was late to the party. Then I guess he purposefully sent 5 of his tanks to the high ground to take that advantage there. And while it thought it would be later than specials, it really wasn't. And I wonder even if at some point Special lost that high ground vision. Regardless, he lost the fight over to the left side. He just didn't have enough units, despite having supremely better upgrades. It was one of those fights that had to be as perfectly in advantage of Kira as it was. Like, if anything else was different, if the tanks were on the left and Marines were on the right or something like that, then Kira does lose, right? Alright. 2,000 atmospheres. Bottom left, it is Kira. Top right, it is Special. And these guys have been playing quite the series so far. I don't even remember what happened in the first 2 games. But third game was really one-sided for Cure. Fourth game was supposed to be one-sided for Special. And then it just turned into this really silly, epic game. I don't know what's going to happen in the fifth. No one's proxying, at least. Oh yeah, the second game was Cure proxy 2-raxing and almost winning off of that as well. We're not going to try that. Not going to try that. It's the Bonbana. It's the Slavanaka. You know, it's not that Americans don't have silly sayings. They definitely do. But I think I'd have to be Southern to really take full advantage of the American funny slang terms. I mean, hell, maybe Slobberknocker is actually developed from an American boxing commentator. I don't actually know, but just saying with an English accent just sounds so much more correct. But imagine if I was really Southern. Not just living in a Southern state, and everyone thinks I'm gonna have an accent, and I absolutely don't. But really Southern. What if I was like a Southern belle? Or what if I was, you know, kind of a hick, and I was an SCV, and every time something exciting happens, I wouldn't just say, holy hell, or hot damn, or that was cool. I'd say, well, butter my biscuits. That'd just be so much more entertaining. Perhaps I have a clearer accent than some of my Southern cousins, but I don't nearly have as much fun. What has happened in this TvT so far? Factory expands for both. Command center a little off on location for Special, who either had it later on location after dealing with the SCV blocking it, or just put it immediately down like he did here. So, wait a minute, this is a 1-rax expand. This is a 1-rax expand. My bad. So the command center is far faster for Special. That does make sense, because why would Cure be able to SCV block a factory expand? Okay, so 1-rax expand versus a factory expand. As I was saying, when Special did get 2-raxed, it's not uncommon. It's not strictly uncommon for Terran to try and 1-rax expand in TvT. They definitely SCV scout with it though, and Special was like, who the hell cares about scouting? It is a little more common with Special. So it's not overall uncommon, but it is, you know, factory expand still probably 60-70% of TvTs. With Special, throw in a couple of other openers there, and it's the only factory expands 50 or 60% of the time, I guess. So he gets away, not just with a 1-rax expand, but he also gets away with no SCV scout. It's a little bit more cash in the bank. If Kier was so bold, took that chance, rolled that dice, and did 2-rax here, he would win the game straight up. Pentarp, thank you for the 100 bits. TvT only tournament. I'm not sure many people would like that. As cool as this TvT has been. It was far exceeding my expectations, just with game 1. Usually people don't really enjoy mere matchup-only tournaments. Alright, so we're about to see why Banshees are not supposed to work in this game. 3 SCV kills for a Banshee with Cloak is not good for the Banshee Cloak player. It's not. Banshee with Cloak, even only 1 Banshee, I'd say you'd still want... let's say 8 SCVs, maybe. He invests 2 Banshees. Say in total you want 12 SCVs worth of damage there. Well, you don't see that happen very often. Cure gets the kill on Special's Widow Mine, which causes Cure's Widow Mine to be visible, which leads to the Hellions killing it. Okay, then. Yeah, this is not a good Banshee opener for Cure. 2 Banshees with Cloak do not equal 6 SCVs. So now the problem for Cure is usually that he doesn't have a very strong army, because he invested into things that died. But even if they didn't die, they're not necessarily a fighting force. So he's down a Raven. He's only down a Cyclone, though, because Special did go for 2 Cyclones. Not right into tanks. So Cure has a tank advantage. So that's good for him. And Special went for 3 Ravens, actually. Okay, then. Gonna go right for the reactor? Okay. You're right. I'm not sure many people would say that well, it's not like auto turrets are necessarily worth because they're energy based, but if there is an attack in the next 30, 60 seconds even, which there is, Cure's already moving across the map, then those Ravens probably want those 3 auto turrets back, or they probably want 1 auto turret back at the very least. Not sure the reactor is the harshest thing for Cure to lose. No, anyways, Cure does attack. Special does have 3 Ravens, not just 2, so he's really not too wanting for energy. And I'd still say that Cure's Banshees were not worth. Special is struggling. He loses 4 more SCVs after already being down in SCVs. He got a 1-Rex expand. He dealt with the Banshees about as quick as you would expect. And yet he's the one that's pretty far behind. Because he's not just behind on the SCVs, which is not, he's not that far behind on the SCVs, to be clear, he's not. He's only down 2 or 3. It's that he's also behind in the barracks. 5 barracks for Cure, 3 for Special. And he's also behind in the upgrades. 2 engineering bays have yet to start. Doesn't have the gas for it. Oh, we're gonna have a base trade. Oh no, we're gonna have a base trade. Oh geez, oh geez. Oh jeez Louise. It looks like Cure was kind of anticipating that fact and started building missile turrets to cover his tanks against the Ravens. But Special was bold. He was courageous. He realized what was going on as well and decided to just go, 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 go. And that was absolutely the right call. And now we got ourselves game number 5 of this pretty damn epic best of 5 TvT. Ends in a base race. I think that's exactly how you would want it to go if you were writing the script. And I think Special wins the base race. He's already into Cure's production. He has these Ravens still alive, whereas Cure just lost the one on the offensive. He lost all of them. He lost all of his Ravens. Yeah, Special, he's got a lot more potential here. He doesn't actually kill the tanks with his interference matrix, though, so that still means that Cure has a shot. Special will eventually always regain energy, you know, but it doesn't happen super quickly, and base races are often about quickness, so there's that to consider. But Special has 5 Vikings. Oh, his Marines are blocking him out! Oh, I don't know if it mattered anyways. But his Marines were on hold position as his tanks tried to reposition, and that just created a stall. The auto turrets get spammed here for Special. It will cost him almost every single Raven. In fact, it does cost him every single Raven. His Marines cannot clear up the tanks. Cure with 1 more tank. Get into that dead zone. Take it out. There you have it. And Special just escapes with 2 Vikings and no, well, not a Marine. Just 2 Vikings escape. Ooh. If Special had abandoned ship on his ground army and maybe just left with his Ravens, would that have been better? If his tanks had moved as fast as he was thinking, would that have been better if he had stimmed faster? Because he just clearly wasn't looking at his army at that point. Would that have actually been enough? This game is crazy close on the actual supplies, but the big difference right now is that Cure has 1-1. No one has combat shields. They both, I guess, denied each other's combat shields. And Cure apparently lost his starport, so there is that. But even though he lost some production, it was the excess production that he had, or not excess, but it was the production he afforded with a better economy. So he loses 2 barracks, but it just puts him on even footing. And now Kira is going to invest into a 3rd CC. Oh, he did lose his 3rd CC. Okay. I'm trying to balance out what's happening in the space race. That has calmed down to just be a regular TvT. Okay. Well, 1-1 is really important. You'd hope. I don't know, last game was an anomaly. The upgrades are really important, I swear. And Special's nowhere near having those done. He just rebuilt the engineering base. But Special does now have a much better economy. Not only has he been able to get faster to, more SCVs, he's been slapping down mules. So... Oh, hold on. No combat shields. Makes this very bad for Cure, even though he has the upgrade lead. But yeah, there's the income. He's Special spiking. Cure's on his way back soon-ish, but, still has to make an orbital. I don't know. Funnily enough, they're both going to even up on that barracks production. They're going to even up on the base counts and probably even up on the SCV count, right? Just because they're going to run out of minerals, both of them. Going to run out of mineral patches. You only need so many SCVs. And I guess they're going to even out on those upgrades. I don't know if Cure... I feel like Cure would and should dive to +2 attack, right? I think that's a worthwhile... Because he has the armor. He didn't lose it. So I think that is worth the resources, but then that's an entire tank you wouldn't be able to build. So there's the question there. Speaking of tanks, one almost dies, but it doesn't. Very key there, it doesn't. And Special just gave away a whole heck of a lot of Marines for that not snipe. Which also means he can't quite protect his own tanks, but looks like maybe just good enough, at least for now. He is trying to full-on retreat as Cure is on full-on chase mode. With that upgrade lead, these Marines are kicking ass. Taking names. Killing a bunch of tanks as well, and Special is fully on the run. He did leave some tanks back at home. I think he was expecting a little more wiggle room on his side of things. He could push, but then leave some units back at home. And then that'd be fair enough. He'd be able to escape if worst came to worst, but he didn't really have a very good escape. His attempt to dive after that one tank, even if it had killed the tank, might not have actually just been a good idea. Hindsight 2020 and all that. Oh, hey, he's gonna get that tank. Oh, is he though? Is he though? He's gonna get another tank though. But Cure is, he's a big believer in this one tank. He's gonna keep that alive forever. Even clearing up the supply depot is good things for Cure. Although I really like that Special did use the supply depot here. Special scans ahead, sees nothing defending this 3rd base. Now it's only his Marines. So it's not like he's going to get very much more from this, and he has to stim to try and retreat. So we're in a very familiar situation where Special's on the retreat, and Cure is given chase. Every time that Special stims, oh yeah, he's going to lose this fight, no problem. Even though the upgrades are even, his army was so overstimmed. Small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. That was just more funny than it was particularly important. 2-2 starts up for Special, only +2 attack started up for Cure, which I do think if you are limited on resources, this was the thing to do for Cure's perspective. Oh, he doesn't realize he doesn't have a gas mining. That's surprisingly big. I know some people out there are going to be like, lol, Terrans, gas, calm down, ZombieGrub, but that is why he cannot afford that +2 armor as fast. Because he did start slapping down 3 mules. He did resaturate all of his active mineral patches. But he didn't have the gas. Special is starting to crawl forward here. He's inching forward because those upgrades are going to be big. He's also got that faster +1 vehicle weapons. His 4th command center is not as fast. And they did actually end up evening up on the SCV count. Special also has a better army supply. We're talking about tanks 10 to 10, Vikings 8 to 7. Special just has more Marines, which 7 more Marines is not usually going to add that much to a TvT battle. Maybe if they're used really, really well. They create the flank, they create the surround, then yeah, I guess 7 Marines could be a big deal. So apparently this just calms down. We legitimately almost had a real base race. People lifting buildings. They got pretty close. Didn't. So it ended up just being kind of a base trade. Not fully and entirely, however, because Special did not lose a command center in the trades. Right? That's literally what a base trade is. But everything else you have to consider in a StarCraft game ends up making it a surprisingly even one. Even though usually I would say that a loss of an orbital is humongous. It's one of those weird situations where Kira replaced it fast enough with enough advantages elsewhere that it's okay. Question mark? And he's not so far behind on the upgrades. If Kira is attentive to his +3 armor, then it should be fine, but he still has not resaturated this gas. He just doesn't know. And he needs all the gas. Oh! That's not a lot of defense back there for Special. Special was roaming around on the field, hoping that the tank count back at home was going to be enough, and it was a feisty tank count. There was like 5 tanks there, but they were so spread out that maybe it turns around. No, hold on here. It's going to turn it on Cure. Cure had nothing to protect his tanks, actually. He dived so deep. It took him so long to actually clear out Special's tanks that Special had time to come back with his entire army. And Kira had basically spent his army trying to breach into the natural. If it was one fell swoop, if he was just already in the natural with literally every single unit, then we're talking about another very awkward base trade. But Special comes back, finds the tanks basically undefended, nothing there to help them out, and Kira is on the ropes again. He's down 30 army supply, and while he is going to hold by the looks of things around his 3rd CC because of the tank count, I'm not actually sure it's going to continue holding. I guess it is. The Vikings especially do not want to land knowing that there's going to be a consistent reinforcement line of Marines. Means that every time you're in this situation, late game TvT, it's probably tempting. The Vikings tanks, right? But then if there's suddenly just 20, not even 20 Marines, if there's suddenly 10 Marines, and it ends up just losing your Vikings, which are still very critical in this type of game. Speaking of, Special goes hunting for medevacs. Has to be careful, because Kira did unload his Marines. And now Special's just gonna go incorrectly hunting for them. So they're not part of the main fight anymore. If Kira just had 1 Viking, that would be so useful, because a Liberator is now a huge thorn in his side. But he doesn't. He's trying to set up a big surround. He's not gonna be able to save this orbital by the looks of things, or maybe just barely, The tanks siege up to stop the Marines from chasing it down. I was gonna say, does Special know about this 5th base? He does not. It looked like he was about to check, but no, he decides not to. He goes right into that main base, scans, and reveals only a handful of Marines there, and that's not gonna be enough to stop the full might of Special's forces. I don't think Kira was anticipating this. He was starting to set up a bit of a backstab, a bit of a run-by, but there was not enough in the main base. His production is going to be camped. His tanks siege up to at least stop the flow, I guess. He's going to try and take the engagement. That 1 Liberator still being a big problem, and Cure is actually just going to tap out because his attack on the other side of the map found an entire 2nd army ready to go. So Cure knew that he was losing at home, he was losing on the offensive, and Special takes the 3-2 victory. What a Slabanaka. What a best of 5. Far exceeding my expectations, man. Start to finish, these guys had some crazy games, but well played to Special. Because as much as there was a lot of, as many moments as there were for Cure to almost bring it back and to create the real drama because he was the one that was down and almost out, there was also a lot of times in a lot of games where Special was in the same position, where it's like, Special's just dead here, right? And he ends up bringing it back, he ends up doing well. GG. G freaking G. I hope you all enjoyed that cast.